Hey guys, EBPMAN here. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about a laser engraver and cutter that's going to allow you to set up a side hustle, let's call it what it is, an Etsy store, where you're going to be able to make things like this, right? Or even things like this. We're talking about the Xtool D1 diode laser. It is super easy to use, and I'm telling you, if you want to set up a side hustle, this is the thing for you. Let's go ahead and check it out. Now in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Xtool D1 diode laser that's going to give you the ability to laser engrave and cut a variety of materials. Now before we go into the specs, you already saw me highlight these coasters. A coaster like this, a set of 4, is going on Etsy, check this out, anywhere from $23 to $45 for 4. You heard that right, okay? A cutting board that basically is personalized around the same price, my friends. And then if you were to do, let's say, a cheese plate, right, that would be also laser engraved, something like this, guess what? You're also talking about the same amount of price. So today, this solution that we're going to take a look at is really going to allow you to set up a side hustle. And more important than anything else, not just the capabilities, is that this thing is super easy to use. So if you are a beginner and want to learn how to laser engrave, this is the device for you. If you are an expert, right, and you want to be able to have fast laser engraving, you're going to want to check this out as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the specs. The Xtool D1 diode laser is one of the fastest lasers that we have tested on the channel from a cutting and engraving perspective. It's a 60-watt laser or 60-watt system that has a 10-watt laser. And it's capable of cutting wood 10 millimeters, right, in a single pass, and up to 5 millimeters thick dark acrylic. 1,000 millimeter per second, I would say speed, right, that it's going to go through. Very, very fast cutter. Also has the ability to either cut or engrave wood, stone, glass, acrylic, right, metal, and a whole bunch of other materials as well. It also comes with a rotary tool, so if you want to make these, I would say these water flasks, the aluminum ones, the personalized ones, you could do that too. And I'm saying minutes, not hours, to be able to engrave. Glass cups and mugs as well. Wine glasses. There's just an infinite amount of things that you can do with this thing. One of the things that I find also that's really interesting, and you're going to see this when we get close up, is that this laser is one of the easiest lasers that I've had on the channel. It is super easy to use when it comes to focus. It really is effortless. All you have to do is just place it where you want it to be. It has a little kickstand that you're going to see in a second. Once you kick it down, it sets the focus and you're done. You just tighten it up and you're ready to go. It does have, I would say, one of the easiest software packages that I found. Not super extensive when it comes to functionality, but it's really simple. That's going to allow you to, out of the box, start running this laser and start creating things like what you saw here. It also, for those of you who are more, I would say, expert, it supports lightburn too. So lightburn is I would say, a more professional version of laser engraving, but it's still very simple to use, that brings in a whole host of capabilities. One of the things that it brings in that I love is the fact that it allows you to even attach a USB camera so that this becomes almost like a portable Glowforge solution. Pretty crazy. You can see that I'm pretty excited about this because it's really hard to find something that works fast, that is simple, and that it's well constructed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this unit close up. We're going to see how it works. I'm going to give you kind of a sense of how the software works and why you'd want to consider this type of laser or this specific laser if you're looking to have a side hustle. And I'm going to tell you, there is, you know, when I think about these right here that you see, and I think about these coasters, there are thousands of these being sold on Etsy. Thousands. And a coaster like this will take you maybe 5 minutes to make. Do I have your attention? Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Xtool D1 diode laser. Now I wanted to share with you some of the samples close up so you can see what we're getting through it. And then I'm going to give you some tips as well that you'll want to be able to go through in order to get the best, I would say, burn or engraving experience. I'm going to show you one that's really good, and I'm going to show you one that's not so good. But I wanted to give you the experience that I'm seeing, and this is pretty common because the material really, I would say, is going to drive what the experience is going to be. And I actually recommend that you do a laser cutting and engraving test. Engraving, if all you're going to do is engrave, a cutting test on any material. In other words, you're going to have one throwaway so you can see what you can expect. Because if you don't, the settings are not going to work for each material type that you have. You would think it would work the same, but everything is a little bit different. So let me show you this coaster right here. This coaster is one that I made for Nilla. This was a test coaster. And basically this test coaster Took me less than 5 minutes to make, and it basically engraved this quote, right? This coffee is making me awesome, right? The neat thing about this coaster is that it has on the very bottom, it has these little felt, I'd say, feet, and it's going to be something that's going to be a fantastic gift for either someone in your family, or if you're opening up an Etsy store. A lot of these sell like crazy. These are big time sellers. Now, what I then did is I said, let me see a cheese plate, right? Different material, right? Different manufacturer, but I wanted to see what they had. And when you take a look at this one, I'm going to put it in an angle so that you can see more of the writing. There you go. You can see how that looks. I'll put it back here. This one, same calibrating settings, but I skipped the actual test, and I should have done the test. And what I noticed is that the material is a little bit different, even though it's slate material, and you notice the finish came out a little bit different. So I have to run a calibration test on this material so I can see what I should have it at. Laser speed, laser power becomes really important. You can configure all these things in the laser. But what you can see here is that this is a cheese plate, where you'd put, cheese and stuff like that when you have people over for either wine or for whatever you'd want to have them. And we went ahead and personalized this so that we would basically have this as a gift. So you can see what this looks like. Pretty amazing, and something like this took about an hour to do, right? But again, something really fast. Another thing that we did, and I have actually another one that I'm going to show you in a couple seconds, is basically we did a cutting board, and Nilda is a realtor, and she basically gifts her clients at the end of any kind of sale. She gifts them a cutting board, right? So what you have here is one that we etched on this material, and you can see how fantastic this looks. It looks really good. It almost looks like it's painted, but this is actually laser engraved. Now the next one I want to show you, this is another cool one, and now this is an actual cut. So take a look at this. So this little cut here is basically a home, right? And it basically has Nilda Sells Homes here at the very top, and then it has Home Sweet Home. Now this one had multiple cuts, and you can set this up in their software. I basically had a key, as you can see here, and that was set to cut, right? The word sold, Home Sweet Home, they were all cuts. And then what you see right here, Nilda Sells Homes, this was engraved. And what I'll do is I'll put this maybe, let's see if I can put this in an angle so you can see that a little bit better. There you go. So we'll put that, I think, right there. And you can see how these are all cut through. You can see my hand on the bottom, and then you see the engraving. So the neat thing about this is that you basically say, I want this cut, I want this engraved, and then it would just go ahead and cut it for you. And this just took like 10 minutes to do, right? And this was a single cut, and you can see how clean these cut lines are, right? And I'm telling you, this was within seconds of having the laser engraver put together. So that's the one thing I'll say about that. This device is super well constructed. It's very easy to put together, and it just works right out of the box. Now the initial shots that you saw of the Xtool D1 were in a different part of our studio, and we had been running a lot of the print samples that you saw, or the print, in this case the engraving samples and also the cutting samples. You saw them, those were run indoors. What we found is that as we were running more and more, that there was just kind of like odor. Just because you're cutting, you are burning things. So we moved it out of the studio setting, and we brought it into an area where we have other lasers and also 3D printers that we run continuously. So this is a better spot for it. And I would recommend that if you're going to have this in a home, that you do get something where you can enclose it and you can actually do some ventilation, hence why I moved it into this area. So focusing on the actual laser itself, like I said, easiest laser, highly recommend this laser. Even before ending this review, I'll tell you that it is a must-buy. First of all, you do have a full metal construction. You do have riser legs that you see right here that raise the actual laser high, and I'm actually keeping it in a high setting. And then also you'll notice that I printed, and you see this throughout the printer, some little feet that I'm going to be drilling in. These are feet that came through the community, the actual Xtool community, so that you could keep it on this wasteboard right here, so that as you're cutting, you're always in the same place, and you don't have to worry about it shifting as you're running any kind of either engraving or cutting. Now, I love that the fact that these risers take you all the way to the top, because actually you'll notice that there is a water bottle that we're going to be engraving in a couple seconds. So a couple things that you'll notice about this. First of all, there is some wiring that's exposed. You can see it right here. And then this is the actual laser head, and this is where the beam's coming out. I'm going to give you some tips about this in a second. You do have some wiring that's in here, and then you have also an exposed circuit board that is also over here. You have, again, your leads that are coming out. So you have a standard USB coming out, as well as your power on the side with the power switch. There's really, this requires a PC. This requires a laptop, something connected to it, and that needs to be connected to it throughout the entire job process. Now, the cool thing about this laser is that, I've worked with other lasers where the actual laser head has to be in a home position before it starts. The cool thing about this one is that you can adjust it wherever you want the laser to start, and then basically when you frame the area, which is like run the perimeter of what you're going to be able to engrave or cut, it will run there. So you don't really have to worry about putting your piece in a specific area, because that's where the home is. Literally what you can do is anywhere on the board, you can take it, align it where you'd want it, move it over, and then that's going to be your start position. And then in the software, you basically run the perimeter to see that it's going to cover the area that you're going to cover. Now, this took me about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to put together, because all it really required were some screws on each side, one pulley. It was like super duper fast. Another thing that I'll highlight that you'll notice that this is not part of the Xtool, but I've been playing with this, is that you'll notice I have a USB camera there. That is a DIY USB camera that turns this into a Glowforge-like experience. You heard that right. It turns it into a Glowforge-like experience. I can literally, using lightburn, I can actually use that camera to see what's on the board, position my image on that item, and then run the print that way. Fantastic. It really changes this, and it makes it really easier for like Nilda, who doesn't use lasers that often, to be able to come in and just use it really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look at what's going on over here so I can show you how to focus, and then we're going to run that actual mug there, that water canister. We're going to engrave it next. Now, the unit that I received for review also included the actual rotary tool that's going to be used for engraving a lot of things. You can engrave glass, you can engrave aluminum, any kind of metal container that has paint on it or a finish that you can remove and get to the bottom. Now, the one thing I was going to mention is that in order for this to work, you have to have this aligned. This is my way of aligning. I say, hey, when you really think about it, the laser has a crosshair, and you see that crosshair, and you see how it's, what my position is. As I'm moving it this way, all the way over to this side, I'm basically looking to see, making sure that that crosshair, and I have, there's something interrupting the beam right there, but I'm looking to make sure that it is, square as it possibly can be. So this is all I'm doing, is just making sure that that is square, and that's how I align this piece, because you want it to be aligned. It doesn't matter, again, if it's all the way in the back, it doesn't matter all the way in the front, it just has to be in the area that you're going to be working with. Now, on the side, right here on the side, there is a little arm that comes down, and we're going to go ahead and bring it down right here. So you're going to see this come down, so we're going to take it out. You see this right here? This is your alignment tool. Right, so basically you drop this wherever you would like, and then, let's say if I had a slate here, this would have to touch the slate, and then I'm going to adjust the actual height based on that. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this now. But the neat thing about this is that there's other solutions out there that basically require like a little tower to be put between your item and what you're going to be engraving. And frankly, it's not as precise as this little thing is, because this is always going to keep in focus. So for example, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this water bottle, right, and I'm going to put it right here, right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to a position where I can see if this little piece right here is going to touch it, right. So I'm going to move it over, and then right here I can see, and I'll try to get a different angle for you guys, but here you'll notice, see the piece right there, it's touching the actual water bottle. Once it touches the water bottle, that means that that's going to be in focus. And then on this side, and I'm going to raise this up, bring this over here, you have this little notch right here, or this little dial that you'll lock in. This goes up and down, and that's all you do. And then the next thing that you'll do is you'll want to make sure that your laser is right in the middle of what you're going to be engraving, right? And that looks pretty good of where I would want it to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the software, and I'm going to show you how this works. Now, there are two ways that you can control the laser itself. One is using the Laserbox software, which you see here is one of the easiest software packages that I find to be able to engrave items or cut items. Now, you also then have another, and this is more for, I would say, someone who I would say anywhere from a mid-tier to advanced tier is looking for a lot of flexibility and a lot of control. Once you start getting used to it, it becomes incredibly easy, but it has a little bit more options and a lot more power than this one, and that is a lightburn. So this one supports both. And the cool thing with lightburn is that it also supports the camera that we have there, and it allows you to use the camera to position things, and you don't have to do the kind of work that I'm doing right here. So first thing first, as you take a look at what's going on the screen, this is what I'm going to be burning onto or engraving onto that flask, right? That could either hold coffee or could hold water. And a couple things that will happen. So this is the graphic that I'm going to be using. And on the side here, as you can see here on the side, there's a lot of cool options. And I just want to show you how easy this is. Basically, you're either working with default material, you're working with this type of wood, fiberboard, leather, stainless steel, or listen, coated metal. We're actually working with coated metal. Next, once you make that choice, what it's going to do is it's going to have presets. Automatically, it's going to choose the power level, it's going to choose the speed, and how many passes it's going to take. Right? Now, as we go over, what you can do is you can define the dimensions of the item itself, which we'll use our caliper to measure in a couple seconds. Any kind of transformation, and then over here, you could determine what your image mode is going to be, right? In this case, I have gray, right, which is going to be really what I would use kind of like to remove that top area. So I'm not going to be changing this to any of these other colors. Gray is the way I would go. Lines that we're looking at per centimeter, right? And you're going to go with the highest setting. And then what you're going to do over here is increase the sharpness all the way. And you'll notice that I have the grayscale all the way. So those are kind of like the basic settings that you can come through here. Now you do have other things that you can do, right? Instead of engraving, I could choose cutting. There's an option. And what you could do is you could actually cut and engrave at the same time. But we're going to be engraving that flask with these words. Let me show you how it works. All right, now the first thing that we did is we reduced the size of the object, right? So I measured my bottle and I was looking at what size I thought would work. The bottle itself is 73 millimeters, so I went ahead and changed this graphic to be 74. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can make this bigger, right? And if you make it bigger, it just means that it's going to rotate the actual bottle and it's going to go around the bottle. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a little bit bigger because you know what? I want to see this going all the way around the bottle. Which I think will be pretty cool. And I'm not really worried about where this is positioned because I don't have to put it up here in the corner. I don't have to worry about this is in the middle because I'm going to be aligning the laser as the center position, and then that's where this is going to start. Now, one thing I noticed is that as I was running the perimeter, and you're going to see me run the perimeter in a second, I felt that because of the size, and you notice over here the size was 1/16 and 1/16, the image was large, right? And I wanted it a bit tighter. So what I did is I clicked on this little button right here. It unlocked the actual dimensions, and then I squished it a little bit more because I think that that's the kind of size I'd like. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit start. You notice I have the laser box connected. I'm going to hit start. And then as this compiles, I'm going to see the image show up here in a second of what we're going to be printing, or in this case engraving. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to frame and do kind of like a dry run to see how far is the actual laser going to move up and down, and do some adjustments. And you're going to see this come up in a second. So it says it's going to take around 29 minutes. And then what you do is you turn on cylinder working, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose framing. And when I do that, you're going to see that the actual laser is going to move the perimeter. So let's take a look. All right, so now that's my starting position based on where I think the center is. And I'm going to hit frame. And we're going to see how far down it goes. And I want to see where it goes here. All right, so that's the area that it's going to cover. I still think that's pretty big. I'm going to go ahead and make another adjustment. All right, so I went ahead and made some adjustments, and what I want to show you is I'm going to run the frame. I'm going to show you how easy this is to adjust. And you notice how it's coming all the way down here. I don't really want it there. And you'll notice that all the way up here on the top, I got some more space. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to move the laser up a little bit around that point, and then I'm going to run the framing again. I'm going to see it go all the way down. I like that space. I think that's a better amount of space right there. See that? And that's why I think that this is one of the easiest lasers out there to work with, because it really is. If you can point it and you can hit click, you can engrave or you can cut. All right, so the next step is we're going to start engraving, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on these glasses. You're going to be able to see through what the camera, or in this case, the camera is picking up the engraving process. So we're going to go ahead and hit start and watch it go. So guys, there you have it. That's one version, and this is the next. All I gotta do is just wipe this off, and then we're done. So guys, that wraps up our review of the Xtool D1. What do you think about your side hustle? Are you gonna create one of these or one of these? Let me know what you're gonna be creating today in the comment area below.